To stand alone, or to fight side by side against the encroaching forces of oblivion.
What's going on, everyone? Bringing you another ESO video, and in this video I'm going to be talking about how I got my MagSorc through VMA, Veteran Maelstrom Arena, some of the rewards that I got from it, and how I got him through it, what skills I used and what gear I used, and a little bit into the champion points, but not so much, as I don't see those as vital to how you get through VMA and how you get through. But I'd like to just start off by saying that it was probably one of the hardest things for me to get through in a video game that I've played before, and one of the most accomplishing feelings, sticking with it and getting through. The initial 8 levels were relatively easy. The boss rounds in those were difficult but manageable, and then the final level was a little bit harder than the others, but really the worst part was the final boss, and that's when I needed some assistance, some help figuring out what I was doing wrong, what loadout I needed to have, what skills I needed to use, what gear I needed to use, and that's really when I started playing with things a little bit and switching things around. But I want to offer that advice to you as well. But first we'll get into it and show kind of what you'll get out of it. First, as you'll see, the polymorph I have right now, that's not actually my customizable character, but that's the polymorph that you get for finishing Veteran Maelstrom Arena. And I'll show you here. So that's me with it off. That's my craftable gear, dyed and whatnot, and then this is with it on. I think it's pretty cool, and it kind of reminds you that, you know, you made it through, as well as you get a title, Stormproof, which is also kind of cool. Not as awesome as the Flawless Conqueror, which you get for beating Veteran Maelstrom Arena without dying. That is, from me getting this title and all this stuff and finishing Veteran Maelstrom Arena, I have a more profound respect for people who have the Flawless Conqueror title. But so let's go into kind of what gear I used to get through it and what I see as being most helpful. First and foremost, for the monster set, you definitely want to, I personally think you definitely want to have a monster set, and there's 3 different ones that are very viable and kind of respectively do similar things, and you'll see boost your DPS if you're not using a monster set for some reason. Those being either the Illambris monster set, the Grothdar monster set, or the Valkynscoria monster set. The Illambris I use just because I already have it, and I've been able to get the heavy with divines, and I'm still working on getting a medium shoulders with divines. But I find it proccing very often, has a lot of uptime, and deals a good amount of damage, especially in terms of AOE. But the Grothdar is also another really good set, I think, if you have it. And whenever you cast a shield over yourself, which you'll see when I have my skills, and we talk about that, you'll be casting shields a lot, self-absorbing shields. And what that'll do is that will ultimately, each time you do that, you have a chance of lobbing like a Inferno or a fire mortar at the enemies nearby. So you kind of have to aim it a little bit, but since you're going to be casting that shield so often, that's going to proc, and that's going to go off pretty often. So I'm not sure if it has more uptime than the Illambris set, but since the Illambris set can be procced by our main spammable being Force Pulse, which I'll also get into later, I'd have to test it out more, but either set would be very viable. And the other one's Valkynscoria set. That's also, you know, a pretty good one, but requires more specifically fire damage. The next set that I'm using is a 5-piece Julianos. This is a craftable set, so the goal of this is that this set, to get you through one of the hardest endgame content, is actually a very obtainable set, and it does not require as much farming as like the Burning Spellweave set over here to get the divines. This is something that can be craftable in Hrothgar at a attuned crafting station, the Julianos station, and you know, if you don't have this, it requires 6 traits, but if you don't have 6 traits, you can just go into the zone, type in the chat and say you're looking for someone to craft you 5-piece chest, sash, shoes, legs, and gloves, Julianos Divines, and I'm sure someone will be able to do it. If you really need someone to do it, you can just let me know, and if you send, you know, me or anyone else in that zone as well, the materials, then someone will do it for you. But you know, if you have someone do that, just usually it's a nice thing to kind of tip them, but then no one ever asks for the gold. If you ask, they'll just do it for you for free. But it's nice to help them out for taking the time out of their session to help you out. The next set is the Elegant set, and you'll see right here I have four. It's a 4-piece set right now, and that's because I also have an Elegant Inferno staff. But the jewelry, to go into more on this, the Elegant set is also very attainable. It requires some farming or purchasing on a guild store, but I purchased the jewelry and the weapons, but you can go and farm it in Oridon. And to get the jewelry, which is typically regarded as some of the more difficult things to obtain, you can actually just farm the dolmens in the zone. If there's a dolmen group running around, which there almost always is, it took me about 15 minutes. I got 1 or 2 of these rings, purple rings, and so I have extras, and you can use that, or you can go buy it from a guild trader if you want. To get a purple necklace or even a gold necklace, I haven't seen one drop, so I'm not as certain about that. So you may want to just cut your losses and purchase one. If you don't have the gold to get a gold necklace or a legendary necklace, you can just go with the purple. It's not going to make big enough difference, and you don't want to. You'd be better off taking the time that you'd have to spend to get all the gold to buy this, practicing and learning the mechanics in the arena. Next, going into the weapons, I have the Elegant Inferno staff. It's precise just because I was not fortunate enough to get a drop from the public dungeon boss on Sharpened, and I purchased this one in the guild store. But I would say precise is second best to Sharpened, so if you can, and it works, I was able to get through with precise. And it's nice because you get that 4th item piece bonus to get almost another 1000 magicka with that, whereas if you use something else, you wouldn't have it. The only Inferno staff I would replace this with would be a VMA Inferno staff Sharpened, but I don't have one. And if you already have one, you're probably not watching this video on tips to get through it. Secondly, the Elegant Swords. This is really important here to have these, and I know it's weird, and I know the 5-piece bonus, like I'll show you, you'll get the 5-piece Elegant bonus. And what's crazy is we have 2-piece monster set, we have a 5-piece Julianos set, and we have a 5-piece Elegant set. So that's a lot of set bonuses, and that's a lot of DPS that you can reach. But you're probably thinking like, okay, so 5-piece Elegant set, but what, these are my light and heavy attacks? Like, that's not, I'm not using my other abilities to really push out a lot of damage. Well, that's where we start going into the skills, and I'll touch upon the, I guess our ultimate first, but you'll see, so we're on this bar, we're on the back bar, and we go into our overload. And your overload kind of, you just get rid of your weapons and your fists become, you know, storm fists. And you go back in your inventory, you hover over Elegant, that 5-piece bonus is still procced. And it increases light and heavy attack damage by 20%. So I'll show you. Let me go to my front bar, and I've got overload put on this bar as well. I go into overload, drop the staff, inventory. No, I've only got 4-piece bonus. So I'm missing out on 20% damage boost. So watch, I'll show you. Okay. So get out of it, switch to the back bar, go into it. One more time. 5-item bonus. It's significantly higher each hit. You got Illambris proccing. Hitting 27,000 per touch, per bolt shock, along with the damage over time effects that procs, along with the Illambris that procs, which gets added onto that. I mean, you're going to push out some serious damage. I mean, I wasn't even throwing down my AOE, I wasn't throwing down anything, and I was hitting, you know, 28,000 per second. So it's really beneficial to use that, and it can really help if you have that 5-piece bonus. Ideally you would get sharpened on both elegant swords, and you don't need swords. You can use daggers, axes, maces, as long as it's one-handed and you can get both on here. That really helps. And so next we'll kind of go into the skills themselves. So on the front bar, and you can use a lightning staff. I prefer an Inferno staff just because I can weave light attacks in with the force pulse, because what we're going to be doing most often is, this is our main spammable, the force pulse, and what that does is it helps proc Illambris, but it also does a good amount of damage from each category, each element, and nearby enemies can also take damage from it as well. So it's a really, really strong spammable, and it helps also proc Crystal Frags, which is our main damage dealing spell. Next skills, Bound Aegis. This is a really good one to have, and it's nice because it's also kind of a passive, so it takes out another skill from your rotation that you have to worry about casting, but grants minor resolve and minor ward, increasing physical and spell resistance by 1300, and then it also increases max magicka by 8%, which is a huge bonus. It's big. I'll show you. So right now I'm sitting with 39,000, and when I was doing damage on that guy, I didn't even have my max magicka up. So cast that, and it's going up 41,756. So almost a little bit more, almost more than 2,000 magic just by casting that. Obviously that's going to be different depending on how much magic you have already. Next is Crystal Frags, or I'm sorry, Hardened Ward. Conjure globes of Daedric energy for protection, and that gives you a damage shield of 18,000, and it lasts 6 seconds, and your own damage shield absorbs 33% more additional damage. This is your also main spammable kinda, but you're only going to want to cast every 6 seconds, and not worry. You're going to want to try and get it so you don't have to worry too much about whether your shield has basically been broken because of taking so much damage. And this I will tie in with the champion point tree in just a little bit. There's a tree line or a skill line in there that will make this shield even more effective, and will make it better, especially for a VMA. We talked about Crystal Frags, and then Inner Light, another kind of passive similar to Bound Aegis, but you don't even have to cast this one ever. And basically I don't ever cast it to exposed enemies in PvE, but the main perk here is that while it's slotted, your max magicka is increased by 5%, and you gain Major Prophecy and increasing your spell critical rating by 2,191. That's massive. I mean, that's big. That makes a big difference. So now I'm getting 8% change, or 8% increase of max magicka from this, 5% increase on this, and then you go into your guild, Mage's Guild skill line, and you get this passive Magicka Controller. Increases your max magicka and max magicka recovery by 2% for each Mage's Guild ability slotted. So I get 2% for this. So I'm at like 15% increase now, I think, if I do the math right. So that's a 15% increase to my max magicka. That's a big difference. That's huge. And I'm getting a spell critical rating put up there. And then on your front bar, you don't have to do Overload. I was just doing that for this to show it, but if you have it, I would use Meteor, Shooting Star, or you can go with the Destruction Staff one, Elemental Rage. That one also works well. But really, you're going to want to be building up to get Overload, and the back bar that you'll go into, what I use is Liquid Lightning. It's kind of your main AOE that we'll be using, and since Sorcs get a boost in lightning damage, this helps. And this also procs Illambris. Bound Aegis, Hardened Ward, Inner Light. And then I also add Dark Conversion. So what'll happen is, say I don't want to go into my Overload and I'm running out of magic. So I'll try and show you on here. This is, and with the patch coming out for Morrowind, what's going to happen is we're going to not have as easy a time sustaining And we're going to need to figure out a way to get magic back, because they're taking out that skill line in there, in the champion tree. So I have 55%. I cast Dark Conversion a couple times. I'm restoring 5,000 magic on each cast. Took me a couple seconds. I'm back up there. I lost some stamina, but we're not using as much stamina. This can prove problematic in VMA, and you have to time this properly, because there are, especially in the last boss round, I don't use this skill that much just because you actually use stamina a lot. You'll be interrupting the boss when he's trying to attack you with necrotic stabs. You'll be dodging his like main interruption ability that he casts on you, and that will knock you off the platform up top. So Dark Conversion in that is difficult, but in terms of sustain while you're in it, and if you have a problem with magical recovery, this is a great ability to use and a great spell to cast to get you there. And then my Overload bar, when I go into it, Liquid Lightning again, just to get some AoE in there. I'll try and do this, get them in the center, cast my ward, and then I'll just attack them kind of close in with my Hardened ward put up. Inner Light just to get that spell crit rating put up there with the bound Aegis. And I also go into that, and that is Surge. And this invokes Meridia's name. You gain major brutality, increasing weapon damage by 20%. Doesn't really apply to this, but each critical strike that you deal, you heal 2,550 health, and that can occur once every second. The amount of time it takes for you to cast each one, you're really probably only getting like 1.5 attacks in per second, if not, if even that. So you'll be healing yourself almost on each hit, as well, because I ran out of it, but the Overload, each attack deals 3% additional damage and restores 1,161 magicka when you go Energy Overload into that morph. So that's huge, and that's really, really helpful in terms of resource management and pushing out as much damage with these different sets that I showed. So I really, really think that with the combination of all those things, you'll see the most damage you'll be able to put out the most amount of damage that you can. One last thing with the dual wield. I had used this. There was some confusion as to whether this passive was active when you were in Overload using the dual wield swords, or any of these dual wield. And there's still some discussion about it. I'm not actually 100% sure. Some people say it is, some people say it doesn't work, but as you can see, each sword increases your damage done by 2.5%. So that's just a possibility. If you got extra skill points, you can just throw them in there. If you don't have extra skill points or you need them for something else, I wouldn't put them in this, because I'm not 100% sure whether it works. Even if it did, I don't think that would be the difference between making it through VMA or not. So lastly, we'll go into the champion point tree and kind of talk about what I use in champion points. I won't go into depth to it too much. I won't tell you what specific numbers you need to have in each, because I don't necessarily think that's important. I think to be champion level 300 as a MagSorc is good. That and above, I think you'll be able to get through it. But let's see. So starting the warrior skill line, but I use the Lord tree, and I hit quite a bit in Bastion. I put most of mine in here. As you can see, it increases the effectiveness of your damage absorbing effects by 20%. That includes your shields, and that's really helpful when you're casting it all the time, and it allows you to cast it and wait the 6 seconds that shield lasts without having to worry about recasting it sooner, because it's been destroyed by all the damage you've taken. So you really don't have to worry. You can really get used to a rotation rhythm, as opposed to having to actually look and determine whether your shield is gone or not. So I recommend this one. Elemental, Defender, and Hardy, these are two pretty well-known ones to use as a Sorc, especially as a MagSorc, reducing poison, disease, physical damage dealt to you, and flame, frost, and magic damage. Especially flame damage taken to you is going to be huge because of all the crematorial guards on that last one that deal a ridiculous amount of flame damage. I don't use anything else in there. Let's go into the thief skill line. Yeah, so magician I put pretty equally. I spread them through between the two of them, but definitely a lot in Arcanist, because you can get some good magical recovery, which is necessary. Although I believe this is going to be one of the ones that gets taken out with the Morrowind, when Morrowind drops. So that'll be interesting, and I see that dark conversion ability being used a lot, and I actually see a max skills that use or boost your stamina, so you have the ability to keep that resource management up, but we'll see. I'm not sure. And then Magician, this one's also pretty well known for MagSorcs, reducing the magical cost of spells by 11%. That just allows you to cast more spells, basically, and it kind of coincides with magical recovery. I mean, ideally, you don't need to have as much magical recovery if your spells don't cost as much, but you'll notice that you'll have some downtime in between rounds, and you'll actually be running out of magicka, and you need that magicka to recover quickly. And even for me, it doesn't recover fast enough, so using Dark Conversion can really help on that downtime in between rounds and in between levels. Next, we have the Mage, lastly. Elemental Expert is your big one. I put a lot of points in that, and then Elfborn, I put a few in there. Spell Erosion is alright. I just don't have that any in here because usually there are some debuffs that people put on, you know, bosses in dungeons and trials and whatnot that will boost your spell penetration, and then I don't need to put my own champion points in here because that's kind of a waste of champion points when I can push out more damage with Elemental Expert. However, in VMA, if you are just a straight solo player, you don't do a lot of group stuff, and you're trying to get through VMA, Spell Erosion can be helpful because those spells will penetrate more. But, I mean, Elfborn and Elemental Expert are still, I think, the two that are really most important. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. Again, this is kind of, it has some fluidity. You don't need to put the same points into each of these that I did. It's not 100% necessary. These are just what I used and what got me through it. But yeah, other things like food. Make sure you have food when you're going into it. I use, let's see where it is here. This increase max health by 4,200, max magicka and stamina by 3,800. That's helped me out a lot. It's pretty easy to make as well. It doesn't require as many materials, and it works really well for me. And I've actually had this for quite a while, sure, really long time, really before I reached the 160 champion point, as you can see, because it scales from 100 to 140. So once I run out of this, I'll probably use some better food that I can craft, but like I said, it still works really well and it works for what I did, and it's gotten me through it, and it makes a big enough difference that if you can only make food like this, or you don't know people that can make food and you need to buy it from a guild store but you don't have enough money, I mean, it shouldn't even be that expensive anyways. But so that's something that you can use. And then a tripod, I actually don't have any because I ran out of them all, but a Essence of Spell Power that restores magic, increases, gives you Major Prophecy, which we're already getting through Inner Light, so I don't know if that adds to it, but I'm pretty sure it does because I've noticed my spell damage go way up when I use it. And then also spell crit on it, something that increases spell crit. That's a really good potion to use, and what I use it for is not when I want to deal damage, because there are sigils in VMA that you can pick up that deal more damage, but I actually use it for when I need to get some magic back, and I don't need to I don't want to swap to my other bar, cast Dark Conversion a couple times. I just want to hit that to get some quick magic, and that will actually help me getting through the fight and reduce the need for more magic, more spells being cast, because I'm dealing more damage and burning the enemies quicker. So that's my take on it. But yeah, as you can see, this is not a required loadout for the MagSorc. I know there are people like Deltia, Streak 1, Outcast. They all use different things that have helped them get through it, and they're a lot better than me. But this is just something that I felt I needed to share with everyone, because it was really difficult for me to get through it, and I wanted to once I learned the mechanic, it got a lot easier, but I wanted to share what worked for me, and this is kind of a maybe even a most up-to-date video on getting through VMA as a MagSorc, especially if you're at a lower level champion point level. You're not yet reached 600. But other than that, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you're more than welcome to leave them in the comments below. If you need help crafting Julianos set or getting some potions or food, I am able to craft all of those things and some more. I've been working on getting to that master crafter stage, but I have a lot of styles so far, and I have a lot of traits, especially in the light armor line. So if you need anything like that, just leave a comment below, and I will definitely get back to anybody that asks or requests any help. I'd be glad to play with anybody and in-game give any tips or whatnot on getting through that kind of thing. And if there's anything else that you'd like to see me or us upload on ESO and some tips, just also let us know, and I'll be posting some more videos since I've been playing this quite often since the last video that I released on ESO on the channel, which was just the review of 1 Tamriel. I've been doing a lot of work in this game, and so you'll start to see some more content coming out, but it's taken a while for me to kind of get my footing back after not playing the game for a while, and getting the MagSorc up there and my healer leveled up pretty high. But so yeah, leave a comment in the comments below. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you next time.